The box hit the table and the room went silent. Just seconds ago, she was speaking loudly, drawing everyone's attention, certain she was right. But now something had changed, and the same confidence in her voice was gone. People turned, eyes fixed on the table. No one said a word, because what just slipped out of that small box was not what everyone expected. And in that moment, it became clear. Something had gone terribly wrong. If you love stories that make you think twice, subscribe to AMOS Tales Africa. And let's see how it all began.
In the busy city of Ibadan, where life moves fast and young people are always trying to look good and live better, there was a young man named Jay, who was known among his friends as someone who always looked sharp, spoke well, and carried himself with quiet confidence. And even though he was not the richest man in the city, he had a stable income and knew how to present himself in a way that made people respect him. And because of this, he lived a comfortable life, moving around nice places in the city and keeping a small but decent circle of friends who understood his lifestyle. It was during this time that he met Nora, a young lady who stood out easily wherever she went, not just because of her beauty, but because of the way she dressed and carried herself, always appearing neat, modern, and stylish in outfits that followed current trends among young women in the city, wearing fitted jeans, clean tops, simple accessories, and sometimes soft heels or sneakers that matched her look. And whenever she stepped out, she carried herself with confidence, enjoying the attention she got. And from the beginning, she admired Jay because he matched the kind of life she wanted, a life that looked good, felt comfortable, and showed progress. As their relationship grew, Jay made sure Nora felt special in ways he believed mattered, taking her to nice places around Ibadan, like restaurants, lounges, and shopping areas where young people spent time. And from time to time, he bought her things she liked, perfumes, handbags, and sometimes clothes that matched her style. And each time he did this, Nora felt happy and appreciated, because to her, those gifts were not just items, but signs that she was being valued. And slowly, without fully realizing it, she began to connect love with what she received, believing that the more someone loved her, the more they would give. And so, what started as a simple relationship built on attention and care, and slowly began to change in a quiet way, because while Jay continued to give out of genuine feeling, Nora began to expect more without noticing it. And this shift was not loud or obvious, but it was there, growing slowly between them, shaping how she saw the relationship and what she believed it should always be, setting the foundation for a moment that would soon test everything they thought they understood about love, value, and patience. As time passed in Ibadan, Jay and Nora became more used to each other, and what started as simple outings slowly turned into a pattern that felt normal to them, because Jay continued to take Nora to places she enjoyed, like lounges, small restaurants, and shopping areas where young people liked to spend time. And each time they went out, he made sure she was comfortable, paying attention to what she liked and trying his best to provide it. And Nora, who already loved good appearance and a soft lifestyle, began to settle into this way of living without questioning how it was being sustained. At first, Nora appreciated everything Jay did for her with genuine excitement, because it felt new and special. But as those moments became frequent, her mindset slowly began to shift, not in a loud or obvious way, but in a quiet adjustment that changed how she saw things. And instead of seeing each outing or gift as something thoughtful, she began to expect it as part of the relationship, believing that this was how things were supposed to be. And without realizing it, she started measuring Jay's effort by the value of what he gave, rather than the intention behind it. Jay, on the other hand, continued to do what he could without complaining, even in moments when it required extra effort from him, because he wanted Nora to be happy and did not want to disappoint her. But there were times when he had to rearrange his finances, delay personal plans, or stretch beyond his comfort just to maintain the standard that had quietly been created between them. And Although he never said it directly, the pressure was there, growing slowly as he tried to keep up with what he believed Nora had come to expect. And so, while everything on the surface looked fine, with smiles, outings, and shared moments, something deeper was beginning to change. Because Nora was becoming more comfortable receiving without asking questions, and Jay was becoming more silent about the effort it took to give. And this quiet imbalance, though still unnoticed by both of them, was slowly building toward a point where one moment would expose everything they had both failed to understand about love, expectation, and patience. As Nora's birthday began to draw close in Ibadan, her excitement started to grow in a way that showed how important the day was to her, because over time, birthdays had become more than just a simple celebration. They had become a moment to be seen, appreciated, and remembered. And for Nora, this particular one carried even more weight, as she quietly expected it to reflect the kind of relationship she believed she had with Jay, a relationship where effort was shown through visible and valuable gestures. In the days leading up to it, she began to plan how everything would look, choosing a nice outfit that matched her usual modern style, something neat, fitted, and appealing. And she imagined the setting clearly in her mind, the kind of place they would go, the way people around would notice her, and most importantly, the kind of gift Jay would present. Because based on everything he had done in the past, she believed this moment would be even bigger. And though she never said it directly, her expectations continued to rise quietly within her. Jay, on the other hand, was facing a different reality that Nora did not see, because while he still cared deeply about her and wanted her to feel special, he was going through a period where his finances were not as stable as before. And even though he managed his situation carefully, there were limits he could not ignore. And as the birthday approached, he thought deeply about what he could do, knowing that whatever he brought would carry meaning, but also aware that it might not meet the level Nora had come to expect. So on the day they had planned to meet, everything was set. From Nora's side, her appearance, her mood, and her expectations, while from Jay's side, there was a quiet mix of intention and uncertainty, because he had made his choice about what to bring, not based on appearance, but on what he believed still held value. And as both of them moved toward that meeting point, neither fully understood that the difference between expectation and reality was about to be tested in a way that would change everything between them. Later that day in Ibadan, Nora arrived early at the hotel they had agreed to meet, and as she stepped into the well-arranged space with soft lighting and neatly set tables, she took her time to settle in, adjusting her outfit and checking her appearance, confident in how she looked and ready for the moment she had been waiting for. And as she sat there, her eyes moved around the room, noticing other guests, the quiet conversations and the calm environment, and in her mind, everything felt aligned with the kind of experience she expected, making her even more certain that what was about to happen would match the picture she had already created within herself. After some time, Jay walked in, dressed neatly as usual, carrying himself in the same calm way Nora had always known. And when their eyes met, he greeted her warmly and took his seat across from her. And for a brief moment, everything felt normal, because they exchanged simple words and small smiles, but beneath that calm surface, there was a difference in what each of them carried into that meeting. Because while Nora was focused on what she expected to receive, Jay was focused on how his choice would be received. Without prolonging the moment too much, Jay reached into his side and brought out a small chocolate box, placing it gently on the table in front of Nora. And though his action was simple and sincere, the size and appearance of the gift did not match what Nora had imagined, and as she looked at it, her expression began to change slowly, not immediately into anger, but into visible disappointment. Because in her mind, the moment had already been defined long before it happened, and what she saw before her did not fit into that expectation. The silence that followed was brief but heavy, and as Nora continued to look at the box, the gap between what she expected and what she received became clearer. And though Jay remained calm, waiting for her reaction, The tension in that moment began to rise quietly, because what should have been a simple exchange was now turning into something else, something shaped by unspoken expectations and unseen pressure. And it was in that space that the next reaction would determine everything that followed. The silence did not last long, because as Nora looked at the small chocolate box in front of her, the disappointment she felt quickly turned into something stronger, and instead of holding it in, she spoke, her voice rising enough to draw attention from people around them in the hotel. And as heads began to turn in their direction, she looked directly at Jay and said, "Is this what you brought for me? After everything, this is all you could think of?" And though her words were not shouted in anger, the tone carried enough weight to make the moment uncomfortable for anyone watching. Jay remained calm and tried to explain, telling her quietly that things had not been easy for him financially that month, and that he still wanted to show up and make the day meaningful in his own way. But Nora did not slow down to listen, because in her mind, the explanation did not match what she believed she deserved. And as the attention around them grew, she continued speaking, letting her disappointment turn into disrespect, saying that someone who had always spent well should not suddenly act differently. And in that moment, it was clear that she was reacting not just to the gift, but to what she felt it represented. The atmosphere around them changed, because what was once a private moment had now become something public, and while some people tried to ignore it, others watched quietly. And Jay, still seated, did not raise his voice or argue back, but his expression showed the weight of what he was hearing. And instead of responding immediately, he allowed her words to settle, giving her the space to finish. But the more she spoke, the clearer it became that the situation had moved beyond a simple misunderstanding. In frustration, Nora picked up the box and threw it onto the table, not with force meant to destroy, but with enough movement to express how she felt. And as it hit the surface, the lid shifted slightly and opened. And in that small, unexpected moment, an expensive smartphone slipped out from inside and landed clearly in view. And just like that, everything changed, because the same object she had dismissed seconds ago had now revealed something she had not taken the time to see. And the silence that followed was no longer tension, but realization. For a few seconds, no one spoke, and the space that had been filled with Nora's voice became completely still, because the expensive smartphone now lying on the table had changed everything in a way that could not be ignored. And the same people who had quietly watched the scene now looked with a different kind of attention, not out of curiosity, but out of understanding. And Nora herself stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the phone, as the meaning of what had just happened began to settle deeply within her. Jay did not rush or react loudly, and without saying anything immediately, he reached forward calmly, picked up the phone from the table, and held it for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. And when he finally looked at Nora, there was no anger in his face, but something quieter and heavier, a kind of disappointment that did not need many words to be understood. And in a steady voice, he spoke briefly, explaining that he had planned the gift carefully, even in a difficult time, because he still wanted her to feel valued, but that what had just happened showed him something he could not ignore. Nora tried to respond, but her words did not come out clearly, because the realization of her actions had already taken hold of her. And for the first time, she saw the situation not from her expectation, but from what had actually happened. And the attention from people around, which had earlier supported her reaction, now felt like pressure, because it reminded her that everything she said and did had been seen. And though she wanted to explain or take back her words, the moment had already passed beyond that point. Without prolonging the situation, Jay stood up quietly, holding the phone, and with a final look that carried more meaning than any long speech, he chose to walk away. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because sometimes the most important decision is not made in noise, but in silence. And as he left, Nora remained where she was, not because she could not move, but because she now understood that in a single moment, driven by assumption and impatience, she had allowed something valuable to slip away in a way that could not be easily repaired. After Jay walked out of the hotel in Ibadan, the space around Nora slowly returned to normal, but for her, nothing felt the same anymore, because even though people went back to their conversations and the quiet atmosphere of the place settled again, she remained seated, unable to move immediately, as the reality of what had just happened stayed heavy in her mind, and the same moment that had started with expectation had ended with loss, not because something was taken from her, but because of how she had chosen to react. As she finally stood up and made her way out of the hotel, her thoughts began to shift, no longer focused on what she did not receive, but on what she had failed to see, and step by step, she replayed everything in her mind. The way Jay had arrived calmly, the way he had spoken quietly, and the way she had responded without patience, and for the first time, she realized that her reaction had not come from the present moment alone, but from the expectations she'd built over time, expectations that had slowly replaced understanding. Days passed, and though life in Ibadan continued as usual, Nora could not ignore the change within her, because the absence of Jay's presence made her reflect more deeply than before, and she began to understand that what she had lost was not just a relationship, but someone who had been giving from a place of sincerity, even when it was not easy. And the more she thought about it, the clearer it became that the mistake she made was not just in what she said, but in how quickly she judged without giving space for truth to reveal itself. And so, the lesson remained, not as something spoken loudly, but as something understood quietly, that what we see at first is not always the full picture, and that impatience can close the door to something meaningful before it has the chance to be understood. Because in that single moment at the table, Nora did not just reject a small box, she rejected the intention behind it, and by the time she realized it, the moment had already passed, leaving behind a truth that would stay with her for a long time, that not everything valuable shows itself at first glance, and sometimes what we dismiss too quickly is exactly what we needed to understand.
The moment passed, but the feeling stayed. Sometimes it's not the gift that matters, it's how we choose to see it. One reaction, one decision, and something meaningful can slip away before we even understand its value. Nora didn't lose because there was nothing there. She lost because she didn't give it time to be seen. And that's how life can be. Quiet, simple, but easy to misunderstand if we rush. Now think about this. If you were sitting in her place at that moment at the table, would you have paused, or would you have reacted the same way? If this story meant something to you, then you are already part of the AMOS Tales Africa family. Support it by subscribing, liking, and sharing so more people can hear stories that truly matter.